Morning, presented by Rival Fantasy. I'm Heather Klein. Rival Fantasy is the all-in-one fantasy sports platform. Let's welcome today's panel. Fantasy Alarm lead NFL analyst and host of Fantasy Fiasco. Up first, Andrew Cooper. Award-winning host, the fantasy exec, Corey Parson. Host of Her Story in the Making, Britt's Fantasy Blitz, and co-host of Lightning Round, Britt Flynn. Welcome, everyone.
Good morning,
guys.
Happy Monday.
The big screen today.
Did you see that?
Boss screen. Yes, that's right.
Oh boy, the
Oh,
Eagles.
right.
The Eagles on this show.
It has to be a permanent change. It felt like the right way to do it, I thought.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Right. I was like, you complain, you receive.
Well, I wasn't much complaining. It was more of a call for justice.
There you go.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Justice heard, Coop. Justice heard.
That's right. Justice prevailed. Yeah.
We don't put Coop in the corner, right?
That's right. You can't.
All right, let's get to it, guys. Although it was a preseason game, the Pittsburgh Steelers did their thing on both sides of the ball against the Buffalo Bills and beat them 15-27. The Bills' offensive line needs some work, and the penalties stacked up. How concerned are you about the Bills this season, and do you feel their production is an isolated situation? Britt, you're up first.
Man, I'm very concerned. 21 penalties over the first two preseason games. Then they lost their backup offensive lineman, Tommy Doyle, for the season. And this was after they'd already hosted workouts for offensive linemen 4 days ago. So they absolutely know that this is a weakness. The Bills are one of the only teams in the AFC East that did absolutely nothing in the offseason to improve their team, except for drafting Dalton Kincaid. And they have such a tough schedule within their division and against the NFC East. We've been preaching on this show since the beginning to take the under on their win total, and it seems that this preseason is kind of confirming our priors on this. Josh Allen himself looks off, and if anything happens to him for any amount of time, they are in huge trouble because their backups don't look good at all. They need a come to Jesus moment if they're going to compete this season.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Britt. And I don't think it's just Josh Allen. I mean, this team is top heavy at a lot of spots. When they invested a lot in Von Miller last year, when they lost him, the defense didn't look good. Josh Allen, obviously a mobile quarterback that gets nicked up. So what happens if this team loses Stephon Diggs? I mean, it is crazy top heavy. And it's funny that they just played the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that addressed a lot of those issues recently, but for a very long time was the extreme example of that type of team, where they had one of the best teams in the league on paper for a long time with the Killer Bees, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and Big Ben. But at any given time, one of those players would go down year after year, and they'd be done. Just that's all it takes for some of these teams that invest in such a small, consolidated group of guys. So this Bills team looking pretty rough right now.
Yeah, them AFC unders, I think, is a smart play when you're doing your win totals and stuff like that. I also saw where a company sent an email that they have a win total game now, so you have to get into that, Brit. But listen, I've been talking about this Buffalo Bills situation, like kind of from the jump. Don't like the chemistry of the team and what they went through in the offseason. Don't like the fact that they came back into OTAs still mad. That offensive line is problematic. So those are some things really, and then that AFC East is extremely tough, and those teams have tough schedules this year. Like I was looking at the Patriots schedule, which is much similar to the Bills schedule, and they're playing playoff style competition every week. This is a fade on the under 10.5 for me. This is even a fade on the Buffalo Bills to make the playoffs. Now, what I will say, and we can go back to the full box, is because this is what I want to talk to my fantasy friends about. James Cook is in the 5th round of fantasy drafts now, right? And you know who else is played in that game? Jalen Warren is also somebody who is moving up as well. Curious to everybody's thoughts on Cook and Warren.
Honestly, I'm still on James Cook just ever since the books moved in favor of him too, because That to me, that's a big indicator. They're the experts of all experts, and they're setting the line for James Cook as if he's going to be the 3-down back. So I'm in on James Cook, but man, it's hard not to like Jalen Warren. The 62-yard touchdown this week. A lot of the metrics behind the scenes have pointed at him being more efficient than Najee Harris. It's hard to say that he's a better back at this point, but people are saying it.
Well, he's more efficient when you look at that sample size, but the sample size has not been that big.
Right.
Najee's been behind a bad offensive line. He's been put in these situations where he's forced to run the ball, even in bad situations. I don't know if Warren gets the same type of workload as Najee, if he's going to still be that efficient. But that said, he did look damn good.
Yeah, also, I will point out from the sample size, when you look at the types of plays, they're more conducive to more yards, even if it's put it this way. You look at the week 1 preseason game, Jalen Warren, the first 2 plays he played were 2nd and 11 and 3rd and 10. And if you run on that and get 7 yards, that's not a good football play, but it's great for yards per carry versus, say, Najee Harris running on 3rd and 1 and getting 2 yards. That's a good football play that kills you yards per carry. So we do have to take context into it. But I mean, the context of a 60-yard house call, it's undeniable.
Yeah, but I agree. The metrics on Warren say a good player. Same thing with Cook, really. The metrics on Cook say a good player as well. So, yeah. And then to see Cook in the 5th last night, I was like, oh, it's over now.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, that whole group of, no, I don't know if I can take him there right now, but that whole group of guys, and I'll throw guys like Rashad White and Cam Akers, even James Conner in there. That's a big reason why people are comfortable starting wide receivers early, because Miles Sanders goes in like the 4th or 5th too. There's a whole group of guys there I like.
It's the Battle of the Beltway, with the Ravens and Commanders finishing up the 2nd week of the NFL preseason. What are you looking forward to seeing in this Monday Night Football game? Coop, you're up first.
Yeah, so the Commanders' offense is pretty settled. Like, we know who's doing what. We just need to know if the quarterback's going to be any good. So to me, the Ravens are a lot more interesting. They're no longer using a fullback. They have basically converted Patrick Ricard into a Nick Boyle type tight end. So I want to see this real team come out with the real offense. Hopefully Lamar Jackson then play for a good amount. And I want to see what this air raid offense really looks like with, Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman. I know Bateman's banged up, and, Mark Andrews might not play either, so he might not even get it. But what we do know is this Ravens team plays for keeps in these preseason games. I don't know what Harbaugh's been telling these guys, but it doesn't matter who plays in the game, starters or not. These guys have won 24 of these games in a row. So I got money on them to win versus Commanders here. I would just like to see what the real offense is going to look like, or at least the vanilla version of it.
Yeah, be careful with that tonight. That for some odd reason, sharp money is coming in on the Commanders, so that's going the other way. So
money's already in, Corey.
All right, there you go. Well, I'm riding with you, my brother. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, I do want to see Baltimore too. I think they will be vanilla, but if I'm looking at Baltimore, I want to see if they start putting Lamar Jackson under center. I think that really would make him a more dynamic quarterback. He's talked about wanting to play under center. Never really did it with the last regime. See how that works out. With Washington, I want to see the cohesion in that offensive line. If Washington's offensive line can get together and play together, I think Washington is a team that'll flirt with the playoffs this year. I want to see how much, if they let us see something, let us see what they're going to do with these running backs, because, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson. Listen, Washington's a team that should have been in on Dalvin Cook, but as far as what they have, I want to see, because I'm in on Gibson. I don't think Brian Robinson that good.
I totally agree with you on that, Corey. I'm super in on Antonio Gibson, but I don't know if I can look forward to anything outside of the fact that it is football on TV, but there are a few things that I want to see. I want to see if the Ravens can put together their air raid offense. I want to see Zay Flowers roll in this offense and see if he can step up as the wide receiver 1. And on the Commanders side, I want to see what Sam Howell looks like after he's been named the starter, and see if he can hold on to the starting job, because I'm still not convinced that he can. I'm also very interested in seeing what the cornerback Emmanuel Forbes looks like. He is one of the best ball hawking cornerbacks to come out of this year's draft. And if the Ravens are going to throw as much as we think they're going to, he's going to have a ton of chances to show why he was such a high draft pick. And we get to see if Lamar Jackson can actually make it throwing the ball instead of using his legs.
Britt, that's not fair. Lamar Jackson has done a great job throwing the football throughout the course of his career. Like when we talk about Lamar Jackson, let's start with a 46-18 record. Right, that to me, that right there is that right there is unstoppable.
No, my question is kind of a different version of Britt's. Is that he says they want to throw more and they're going to run less, but there's always a temptation to do that. So I'll be interested to see if he's willing to do it, because when you look at certain quarterbacks that mobile QBs, some guys weren't willing to do it. Like Cam Newton was always wanted to run, whereas Russell Wilson, he pulled up at a certain point, changed who he was to a certain degree, and that's kind of allowed him to play for a longer time than some of these other guys. A lot of the career trajectories for mobile QBs looks more like running backs than it does quarterbacks. So I want to see him make the transition to looking for the pass until the last possible moment versus tucking it and running it at the first moment, you know?
He's real dynamic as a runner, though, probably more so than anybody. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is in that category now, but
not even though. Like the thing is, when you look at it eye test wise, nobody runs like Lamar Jackson.
No, and
the
Michael
spin
Vick,
moves and the jukes, man, he is just like electric.
No, it really is a different level, and Hurts is like you said, he's not there yet. But listen, here's the thing, right? I'm still, even though I did a last night, the draft I was in last night, I came out with an Andrews Jackson stat, right? Because ultimately, I still feel as if, even with Flowers and if you get a healthy Bateman and Odell, I still feel like it's Andrews and Jackson. Like I still think that that's what the offense is right there. And Dobbins, if he can get healthy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Andrews and Likely out there over the wide receivers. I feel like they have, more of a grasp on this offense. They're not going to go strictly just to all wide receivers when they have such a great tight end base built in. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this air raid kind of transition into some 12 personnel as well.
And we got Better Boss says that Justin Fields may be the best running quarterback.
Yeah, there you go.
Justin Fields threw for 2,200 yards last year.
I don't know if you've seen Isaiah Likely's vibe this offseason, but he's rocking the mustache and the Jerry curl, man.
Oh, really? He got a Jerry curl?
Oh, yeah. Last time I saw him, it's a look, man. He's ready to rock and roll.
All right. Shout out to Isaiah Likely. It's too hot for that Jerry curl.
Yeah.
We're here to get you ready for your fantasy football draft. Start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription and get the Fantasy Football Draft Guide and Cheat Sheet free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. We continue our fantasy football draft strategy. What advice would you give about drafting tight ends outside of course, Chiefs future Hall of Famer Travis Kelce, who usually gets drafted in the first round? What are your thoughts, Corey? We'll start with you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be the guy to start with. Hey, I like the good tight ends this year. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna go and pay up for Kelce unless I'm trying to put a Kelce Mahomes stack together. But other than that, I like the good tight ends. I want to be in that top. I don't want to go past I don't even want to go to Dallas Goedert. Like, I don't want to get down there with Chika Conwu and all of that. Like, I even want to be above Pat Freiermuth. I want to be George Kittle. I want to be Darren Waller. I want to be Mark Andrews. I want to have a good, solid tight end. A lot of people will talk about how well that can really mess up the way you put the rest of your team together. But when you look at the stats that dudes like Andrews and Kittles can bring you, as well as Travis Kelce, they're wide receiver type numbers, even though you don't play them in the wide receiver slot. So, and then if you get two, you can go double tight end. So listen, and depending on how many, you can flex a tight end. So for this year, a lot of years I would wait on tight end. This year I'm going to give me one of the good ones.
Yeah, I more often than not tend to punt the tight end position and take two that I feel have some high upside, because I really don't like this middle tier of tight ends. And honestly, I don't even like George Kittle where he's going. I like Darren Waller, but he's getting steamed up in ADP after a major showing in the preseason, and he's becoming more difficult to draft. So I tend to target guys like Dalton Schultz, Dalton Kincaid, Greg Dulcich, Sam Laporta. Grab two of these guys who I think have a pathway to becoming the top two target on their team. And Coop's going to tell you that's what you want out of your tight end position. I'm not going to steal his thunder, so I'm just going to defer to the tight end whisperer for the rest of this.
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys covered the two ways to approach this position. So my ultimate advice is this: lean into what you're good at, lean into your skill set. Corey, if you want to, and I say this all the time, and this includes Kelsey, if you don't want to deal with the position, draft one early. Absolutely. Like, it's a difficult position and it allows you to focus on other positions. If you like adding wide receivers off waivers, I personally am contractually obligated to find the breakout tight ends. Every year, one's come from outside the top 17 ADP for 6 years now to finish top 5. So we're going to try and find them. So if you want to go to tight ends, play the yin and yang tight end game with us, then great. And if not, and you don't feel like doing that, then draft one early. That's the beauty of the position, is you can kind of lean into what you feel like doing and what you believe is going to help you win. Lean into your strengths.
And didn't you say, Coop, that out of those top 12 tight ends, like out of your breakout tight ends, at least one has ended up in the top every single year?
Yeah, out of some top 17. Oh, for my list?
Yeah.
From my article, we've got some pretty good stats on that. No one from my fades article for 4 straight years has ever finished top 5. And at least one player from my yin and yang article has finished top 5. And a couple times it's been 2 players like Mark Andrews and Waller. So we're doing pretty well on that. And today on Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco, I'm just going to give everybody my full strategy. The first 40 minutes of the show are going to be, here's what I'm doing with the elite guys. Here's how I'm piecing it together later. And then I'm bringing on David Gautieri to talk about deep dynasty stashes based on FFPC ADP. That's why 45 seconds here, I'm just like, hey, do whatever you feel like doing. And if you want to do what I'm doing, at 1 o'clock today, we're going to run the whole thing down, top to bottom.
That's what's up.
It's easy as that. You know?
Or you just boom.
I don't
But I'm tired.
The
thing is,
that.
I'm tired of telling people do exactly what I do, because they don't have to, right? They can do whatever they want. But if you want, the easiest way to do it is just follow me on Twitter. I'll just tell you exactly what I'm doing. And for the last few years, it's worked out pretty well. Can't guarantee it every year.
That Evan Ingram.
We did have last year. The yin and yang
finally showed up last year. Evan Ingram.
The yin and yang tight end strategy, Corey, is basically you wait until late and then pick the safest possible guy to start for the first couple of weeks and use a bench spot to, you don't even have to draft the guy if you don't want to, but just dedicate a bench spot to rotating guys in and out until you hit the breakout. Last year was probably the easiest strategy year ever for this strategy ever, because Zach Ertz had 6 games with no DeAndre Hopkins. So we had 6 games of the safest possible pick ever, the most boring safe pick ever, to find the other guy. And if you just took Zach Ertz and then pivoted to Evan Ingram, you had the tight end 3 for the entire season.
So, Coop, what do you do with your strategy? What do you do with Kyle Pitts?
He's in the top part where there's
you ignore.
Well, there's a group at the top where if you take one of those guys, you don't draft a second one. So if I draft, and I don't mind drafting Kyle Pitts if I'm just going for upside, but I'm not taking a second one. So if I draft Kelsey, Andrew, the guys I like at the top are Kelsey, Andrews, Pitts, and Waller. Just shoot for the moon, go for upside. We don't care about floor at all. But if you want to put Kittle in that group, God or whoever, that's fine. But like those guys, if you're spending that draft capital, you can't spend 2 picks. That's my point on that. I don't say always draft 2. I say if you're going to wait and you want to double tap 2 guys named Dalton, Schultz and Kincaid, and have a safe guy in Schultz and an upside guy in Dalton, that works if you wait. But if you can't double tap tight end.
Sunday morning, what are you doing with Kincaid and Schultz?
You got to start Schultz, man.
Okay.
All right. I can't start a rookie tight end. I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy. Can't start a rookie tight end week 1. Even this year.
Now it's time for Dealer's Choice. Give us your bet of the day. It can be on any topic and any sport. Britt, who do you have today?
So I'm going to take Cody Bellinger over 1.5 total bases at plus 125 on DraftKings Sportsbook. He's facing Alex Fado, who hasn't been good, nor have any of the Tigers been good. But at an ERA of 5.16, I like Bellinger to hit this mark. He's batting .326 against right-handed pitchers this season with 13 homers and 44 RBIs. So I think that this is a very solid wager today at plus money.
Boom. this is the part of the preseason where I start looking around at the usage for guys. And I know it's small sample size, but we can glean some information. Some important things like when they say, oh, the starters aren't playing, and then certain guys do play. That's important information. The other one is you look around and see who's playing in 2 wide receiver sets and who's playing in the slot. Well, with the Colts, we've kind of gotten a mix through 2 games now. That actually paints a pretty clear picture of what they're doing at wide receiver. It's Michael Pittman and it's Alec Pierce. Those are going to be the 2 guys playing the full snap shares. And Josh Downs has already pretty much beaten out Isaiah McKenzie and the other guys to be the slot guy, but he's virtually only played in the slot. So I look at Alec Pierce with an over-under of 550 yards in the season, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. So give me over on 550 on Pierce, given how they're treating him this offseason and what his role likely is.
I took Pierce in the draft last night, so I feel pretty good about that there.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, in the flex draft, I'm in the flex best ball, and on my fantasy league, and they show the times that it take people to pick. The most popular dude in our industry is at 22 hours, and he's drafting on the turn too.
Oh boy, brutal. A certain fantasy life play.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, interesting.
But what I will say, this is start on Saturday. We get football back, real football. We get college football on Saturday. Notre Dame opens up in Ireland versus Navy. Right now, the number is 20.5. Go ahead and lay the 20.5 before he gets to 21.
They're playing in Ireland.
They're playing in Ireland. Can you imagine that?
That's gonna be rowdy, dude. It's not only gonna be the professional drinkers of Ireland, but we probably sent our best and brightest over.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
That is gonna be something. What time's that game at?
2:30.
At 2:30. Okay. That's cool.
I
didn't know they were doing that. That's awesome. They're doing that. Notre Dame Navy in Ireland.
It might be on Peacock and nobody will be able to see it. No, I'm just playing. Sorry. Had to get a little zing in right there.
What are some other good games from this week? I'm not as much of a college football guy, but
it's nothing. USC plays this week, so Caleb Williams get a chance to start.
Yeah. Is it San Jose State that they're playing?
They play San Jose State.
Yeah.
But
usually a lot of cupcakes early, right?
Unless you go to the FCS side of the schedule, you don't see this. But there's actually a very good game in Atlanta that's going to be on ABC Saturday night with South Carolina State versus Jackson State. So
we'll see how Jackson State looks
without Dion.
After,
yes.
So I will say I'm doing college football projections, and I've got the Pac-12 and SEC. The amount of orange in Colorado, which denotes transfers,
the whole
absolutely
thing.
Insane. The entire thing.
Imagine,
the entire thing.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes. I did after listening to Corey.
Hit that 3.5.
I did sprinkle. Yeah, I did follow Corey on that. It's also fun. You know what I mean? Like I believe in it, and it's just fun to root for primetime. And you're gonna have a lot of primetime games to watch.
Yeah, you certainly will.
Yeah, Guinness for breakfast. So much more than just a breakfast drink, right, Tommy?
It's always Guinness time, baby.
That's those fall weekends, breakfast for beer for breakfast.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for it to I love those football jamboree mornings where it's you could smell the grass. Dude, I'm getting fired up for football. The early football, it's not quite the same. You need to be just a little bit cold and crisp out. I'm not sure if it gets cold and crisp down where you guys are, but
eventually for about 2 weeks.
It will around Christmas.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, that's the best. I'm fired up for it.
Guinness looks like some coffee though, right? Looks like a good old cold brew. Guinness does.
That's right. That's an old trick in the book.
All right, that was today's edition of A Bettor Morning. Thank you to Corey, Britt, and Coop. Make sure you check out Fantasy Fiasco at 1 p.m. Eastern with our very own Coop, and Britt's Fantasy Blitz at 2 p.m. Eastern. And if you missed any of our shows, you can find them all on our YouTube channels and at bettorsports.com. We wish everyone a better day.